sound heard here at the beginning of this video is so terrifying that to cover this video, I have to have my cat here as emotional support. So in the clip that you guys just watched, we can see that it's completely silent, and at nighttime, when all of a sudden out of nowhere, we can see this beam of red projectiles traveling up into the sky, and this sound that can only be described as ominous. And let me tell you guys, you would not want to be on the receiving end of this weapon. Now, many of you guys might already know what this weapon is, seeing as if you've been on my channel for a while, I covered this 6 months ago, but in that video, it was only a 1-minute breakdown. In this one, we're going to talk about when this weapon was created, what it's used for, and just how deadly it truly is. Now, the piece of equipment that we're talking about here in this video is something known as a CRAM, which simply stands for Counter Rocket Artillery and Mortar. What it does is in its name. It prevents these aerial threats from striking a certain area, and the CRAM does its job very well. Now, this right here is a high-resolution image as to what the CRAM looks like, and to be honest with you guys, you might be thinking the same thing as me. This thing doesn't actually look all that intimidating. It kind of looks like something from an old sci-fi movie like Star Wars, but trust me guys, it does serve its purpose, and it is a lot more capable than it looks. So for some backstory, there are actually two different types of this system. There's the land-based system, but first, the naval system was developed, and it's referred to as the Naval Phalanx system. This was first created back in 1973, but parts of this gun, like the Gatling portion of this gun specifically, was created back in 1959. Now, as to not confuse you, the Naval Phalanx system and its land-based counterparts both basically perform the exact same task. The naval system protects military watercraft from incoming threats like airplanes, missiles, or small boats, and there are some pretty terrifying clips out there of commercial planes flying overhead and the naval system locking onto it and tracking it. Obviously, it doesn't fire at the commercial aircraft, but it's still terrifying that it has the capability to do so. These machines are very smart. Now, that being said, while the basic role is virtually the same between both of these systems, there are a couple of critical differences. For one, the naval system fires tungsten armor-piercing rounds, and the CRAM, which is the land-based version, fires high explosive tracer rounds that also self-destruct after a certain amount of time. Now, the main reason for this is on the ground, these rounds are set to explode so that they don't accidentally hit something else and cause collateral damage. If they don't hit their target, they're not going to land on something that's not supposed to be landed on. Now, despite the fact that the Naval Phalanx system was first introduced back in 1973, it took quite some time for the land-based system to ever become a thing. Back in 2004 is when this was first conceptualized, but it wasn't until 2010 that the CRAM land-based system was ever introduced, and this was in Iraq. And during its first tour out there, it proved to be very successful, taking out roughly 70 to 80% of the mortars that were within a certain area that was acting as the American embassy. Now, looking more closely at the CRAM, this is not actually a single gun, despite what you might think, because, as we've mentioned, this Gatling gun was first introduced back in 1959. In fact, the CRAM is actually a combination of a bunch of different systems that allow it to track, allow it to fire extremely quickly, and neutralize its target. And fire very quickly it does, because the Gatling gun portion of the CRAM has the capability to fire off roughly 4,500 rounds per minute. So every time it takes down one missile, the estimated cost is between $40,000 to $80,000, which is wildly expensive and one of the only drawbacks to this piece of equipment. So that being said, in terms of benefits, we have roughly an 80% chance or higher of taking down potential targets that might land on us, but the one downside is after every 5 or so missiles that are taken down, usually it has to be reloaded, and it is very costly. In my opinion though, despite these drawbacks, the benefits do clearly outweigh the negatives, and it would appear as though the military agrees with me, seeing as these CRAMs and Naval Phalanx systems are still in use. Now, if there are any millionaires out there watching this, or any just gun nerds, do not even think about buying one of these, because even if it was legal, the price is roughly $10 to $15 million, and again, to operate this for a minute, you are going to be spending $100,000 or $200,000. So yeah, that's basically the full outline here of the CRAM. It's a really interesting piece of equipment, pretty high tech and cool. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. Drop a comment letting me know what you want to see next. I also do have a Patreon. That'll be linked in the description if you want to support me. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.